Welcome to another installment of Borla Behind the Wheel. In this installment, we're going to talk about input versus output. Inputs versus outputs. An input is converted by the processor system into an output. The input of a specific step is the output of a previous step or related process. As you can see, that can cause confusion if you don't specify the process step. And in another installment, I talk about upstream and downstream, talk about suppliers and customers. But an upstream supplier provides inputs, and a downstream customer uses outputs. So if you think about like a production line, the things that are coming in, the people that make that are your upstream suppliers. And what you take out of the process and send on down the production line, those are downstream customers. Just like a boat on the river will flow from upstream downstream as the current takes it. So an input is what is put in, taken in, or used by a processor system. So you can kind of think about them like ingredients. If you were going to make a cake, you have to have all of the ingredients ready, and you have to have them in the right proportion to actually make a cake. If you leave out certain things, or you put too much of one, or substitute something for something else, you can have a different outcome than what you expected. So, for example, the inputs are raw material, components are raw information. And now outputs is what is produced, taken out, or created by a process or system. So the process converts this inputs into outputs. So in the same example of the cake, you mix all of the ingredients, the inputs together, pour it into a pan, put it into the oven, and the heat of the oven, the time that it takes, and sort of the reaction of all of the ingredients together in the process is what actually creates the output of the cake. So for example, we can have sub-assemblies or final assemblies, or even the final report is an output. So inputs versus outputs. An input is converted by the processor system into an output. The input of a specific step is the output of the previous step or related process. And for example, if you have Acme Steel, who's a supplier, and it sells its tubing, that's its product or its output. Now Borla, as the customer, they buy the tubing for the production process, and that's a component or an input to our process. So the tubing is the same, but for the supplier, the tubing is an output, but for the customer, the tubing is now an input. So you must understand the output and the specifications related to it to actually define the necessary inputs and assign specifications to those. Your process has to be set up in a way to where it can convert the inputs that are put in into the specified output that you expect to have from the process. And then the outputs must meet the customer specification requirements. So you kind of go at this backwards in planning. You look at the output that you want and the customer specifications, and then you determine what inputs have to go in to the process to create. I found this quote, and I think it really sums up why Borla is so committed to the current initiatives that we're undertaking and how important they really feel like they are. Most companies don't die because they are wrong. They die because they don't commit themselves. They fritter away their momentum and their valuable resources while attempting to make a decision. The greatest danger is standing still. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.